Hi, thanks for joining us for this episode of Doug Has Questions. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe. We're available if you want to watch us on YouTube, or if you just want to listen to the podcast version on Apple Podcast and Spotify. And each episode goes live on Thursday morning. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and we're happy to have you listening. Welcome to this edition of Doug Has Questions. Today, my guest is Al Badgley, longtime acquaintance, family friend, employee now, and just an amazing asset to our community. So we're going to get into Al's early life, what brought him to Haines, and then all the amazing things he's done for our community and in our community since he got here. Welcome to the show, Al.
Well, good. Greetings, everybody. So let's just talk about. I'm a former Texan. I grew up in Texas, born and raised there, and my dad was really
What part of Texas?
In Baytown, which is near Houston.
South of Houston, or
it's east of Houston.
East of Houston.
Basically,
okay.
My dad was in the oil business. He worked for ExxonMobil. Don't hold us against us, but anyway, and basically that's going to refer later on to why we get up to Alaska, but. Mm-hmm. We were there. My dad was an avid hunter and fisherman, and I was doing that. When I was 2 years old, he went on an African safari, and before he go, he says, well, I got to have something. So he gave me this little wind-up elephant that you'd run across the floor and a little spring-loaded dart gun that I could shoot the elephant. And I said, well, I want to be hunting elephant while you're hunting elephant. So anyway, so that was part of the thing I got for that. So at the age of 2, I was elephant hunting.
You were elephant hunting in your house in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, so, and that happened. And then he worked for this Exxon company, and they have this little thing called a brief that talks about things that families do. And at 3 years old, I had a picture of holding up a big fish that I had caught when I was 3, and that was something that I still had a picture of that recently. Okay. I saw. And then
so the whole outdoors was huge for your dad, and he passed that on to you.
That's true. We did not have really vacations. Our vacation was which fishing spot we're going to go to, what hunting spot we were going to go to, and every once in a while we would maybe go somewhere else, but most of it was oriented towards hunting and fishing and outdoors.
So what did your dad do for Exxon?
He was a inspector. He did pipe inspections, etc., like that, and he worked in the refineries, making sure joints were done, welds were done right, etc., like that, which is what he ended up doing when he was working on the pipeline up here later on.
That's what I was going to ask. Was some of that pipeline work then? So he got to see a large part of the country, because was he traveling to do inspections on pipelines too, or is it all mainly?
Oh, he worked on the whole, the Alaska pipeline. He worked in Valdez, Barrow, all the different main hubs. He would be stationed out of there. He would work 8 weeks on, 2 weeks off, and they would fly him back to Houston or something like that.
How old are you when he's working 8 weeks on and 2 weeks off?
He started probably when I was in, I would say, middle school.
Middle school?
Middle school, maybe 7 or 8.
What was that like, having your dad gone for 2 months at a time, and then you get him back for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it was different. I mean, you would be gone for a while, but
because you didn't have FaceTime. You didn't have video chat or anything like that.
But I have some cousins that, I did a lot of things with. We had quite a good family composite of people in the Baytown area where I grew up. So both my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family. So we, did a lot of things together, did like Sunday lunches or something of that nature. And, we did a lot of family events that way. Not a whole lot of travel to major destinations, except for.
Did that bring you closer with your mom?
Yeah, in a way it did. My mom worked as a high school registrar. Okay. So everybody at the high school knew me well before I ever got into high school. I could not do anything in high school without somebody knowing me. I mean, I was a well-known
commodity before
I even got to high school. So,
and anything you did, your mom knew about it before you did, almost.
That is true, and it was a little different. Being in the South, With a mixed black and white population, there was some racial tensions there. So
high school for you, not to give away your age or anything,
Yeah.
but people do the math. But what years are that when we're talking about having that kind of racial tension still in the high schools?
in the early 70s.
Early 70s. So that even after the ERA and everything like that, that was going in your experience, that was still pretty prevalent down in the South.
So this is an example of what happened. I went to a high school football game, away game, went on a bus, and I was at ninth grade. I was a pig squeak in ninth grade. I mean, I was a little runt or something like that. So I told my mom, I'm going to be on that bus before anybody else. So I got on the bus, and a person came in and says, I need some money. And I said, I don't have any money. He goes, give me some money. And I said, you got to have something. And I said, I don't have any money. And this is one person and me. It was only people on the bus.
Yeah.
And then finally, somebody else came on the bus that I actually happened to know. And the guy said, oh, leave that guy alone. He's good. And I was very glad that happened. So it was a situation that was tense. And I mean, there was a lot of racial fights, etc., like that. There was actually, we had a lot of, in the lunchroom, I was in a big high school. The graduating class is about 500 to 600.
Wow.
So there was, people would walk by, and you would have to be careful when you walk by, because people would throw tomatoes at you in the school and apples if they didn't really like you. So
I've heard of food fights and everything, but throwing apples and tomatoes in the lunchroom is a little extreme.
Right, but you think about this. I mean, there's 500 per class. There was 2,000 an hour.
Yeah.
So this was huge. And I mean, and there would be all these people in a wad, and all of a sudden a tomato would come out of the wad of people and then at somebody. So it would be a situation where, so basically I learned you just don't go through the gamut, which people would be walking through or something like that. So that was a situation that happened in one of my younger years or something like that. So.
Wow. So how did that shape you going forward, being involved with that kind of interracial strife and stuff? Did that affect you somehow going forward, do you think? Or?
In a way, it didn't really bother me, except for the fact I was kind of naive and thinking, why just don't we get along? I mean, it's just easier to do that.
Because that's it. I think most people that know you and Haines or have known you over the years, Al gets along with everybody. I mean, you're always looking out for everybody regardless. And so I didn't know if part of that was reinforced by seeing the way people were treating differently based on their skin color. And
I think it was an issue down there that we had to deal with. But in the South, the blacks were definitely, I guess, not treated properly. We'll put it that way, if I can be mildly.
History has shown that.
And I mean, it's the same with the native population here. So I mean, it's really similar. I can say I grew up in the same kind of a situation that the native people lived here, but I saw it with the black population in Texas. So
pretty much anywhere you go where there's a minority, somebody's going to be taking advantage of them and not treat them as well as we should.
That's true. So anyway, my whole childhood was fishing. We had a great fishing and hunting area. We had a place on a bayou that across from the bayou was a big duck hunting swamp area that we could hunt in. And growing up, I mean, that was my go-to from 6th through college. Every weekend I would either go back during high school, I would go on the weekends, etc., and go hunting.
So how did you have your own boat to get over there? Was it a drive around to get to it?
Basically, you could drive to our cabin that we had on one side of the bayou, and then you had a boat we owned 5 acres there we had boats stored there, and we had a little dock, and you could just paddle across, and we owned property across the bayou is where we had the hunting area.
Okay.
So we got a couple of...
So what animals were over there for hunting?
The hunting, we mainly had squirrels, rabbits, feral hogs, but mostly it was duck hunting and goose hunting. Okay. But it was mainly duck hunting. And there was a area that they tried to make into a rice field over there and they did it actually as a tax write-off. They opened this one area up, cut a bunch of trees down and made a rice field, and then they kind of abandoned it. But what they did was make a great duck hunting area right there. But we had these little channels where there was still woods in there, and there was wood ducks. I don't know if you ever heard of a wood duck, but that's a duck that just flies really aerodynamically through the woods or something, and they have this really big squeal when they're coming and stuff, and that's something that just really was fun to hunt. So anyway, so we had some great hunting, but the bayou had some really neat, the main fish we fished for there was catfish.
Yeah.
So I got a couple of catfish stories here.
All right, let's hear them.
Okay, to start with, when I went to Texas A&M, one of my classes was ichthyology, study of fish.
Yep.
So a guy that I went to high school with went to college with me, and we had to do a class project, and it's what's called do an articulation of a skeleton of a fish. So we got to pick any fish we wanted, but what we had to do is put all the bones of this fish in and you would just glue it all together, and you had this thing. So
you had to go out and get the fish.
We had to catch a fish, and then you take all the meat off, and then you dry the bones out, and then you actually...
So you just put the skeleton back together.
You put the skeleton together, and you glue it up or something like that. So we said, everybody had to pick a fish, and we're saying, we're going to pick a catfish. And I said, we're not going to pick any ordinary catfish.
We're going to get a big catfish.
So I caught a 23-pound catfish.
Yeah.
And it was on a Thanksgiving weekend. We had the whole weekend to do this. So we caught this 23-pound catfish, and it's like, okay. We spent about a day and a half to 2 days getting all the bones laid out. But what you had to do, some of the bigger bones, you had to dry them out because it just took a while when you soaked them in this peroxide or whatever we soaked them in. So we had them laying on this table in my friend's yard, and we went in. This is Texas. It's hot. So we went in and got some lemonade. We came back out, and about 10 of the bones were gone. A cat had grabbed the bones and was gone. And it's like, this isn't good. How are you going to make up for bones you can't go buy a 25-pound catfish.
No.
So I said, we'll go catch another one.
Okay.
So I went back to the thing. We had to get a motor to get to this one spot. So we went later that afternoon and set a line out, caught a 25-pound catfish. So all we had to do was take just the pieces, the bones that were...
What bones were they? What bones were missing?
It was the bones on the stomach, where the fins are.
Yeah.
That bone's right there. So it would look kind of funny without having the...
Yeah, that's kind of a key part of the skeleton
right.
of the catfish.
And they had just taken a couple of big pieces like that. So anyway, that was... To be able to catch 2 catfish back to back was pretty amazing right there.
What grade did you get on this? A?
It was a A. And actually...
Was that the biggest skeleton there? Did everybody else get the
everybody had
fish?
like perch
and stuff.
Little guys like this. And ours was like the hard part.
How do you transport that
sucker?
That
was the hard part because we were trying to figure out, we had to put it in a box but you can't really put stuff in it. So we had a big box that it fit in. And then it's like, you got to get it into the classroom with all the people and everything. So we got it in. We got a great grade, but part of the grade was you actually had to identify. They would point to bones, what's his bone, et cetera, like that. So.
And did you tell them those are off a second catfish?
No, the word never got out that this is 2 different catfish. So
did you have was this like a full skeleton? So like the rib bones and stuff were on there too? Yeah. Dang.
It was a challenge. It was a long-term project to get all the bones together or something. And then you had to put like string and stuff to hold stuff that didn't actually match other things, some of the floating bones and stuff like that. So.
Wow. So after all that work, you get a great grade. Do you just throw it away, or do they keep it at the school? They kept it? Okay.
They didn't give it back to us.
They didn't give it back to you. Do you think it's still at Texas A&M somewhere?
I don't think so. I think it's probably
hit the dumpster
I don't
by
think
now.
they could actually keep it for very long. I think they didn't have storage space.
Yeah. So what you said you had two
Here's
big
my
fishing
other
stories. What's the other
story.
one?
Right before I moved up to Alaska, my dad said, I was trying to catch a big catfish. 23 pounds is a nice catfish, but I wanted a big catfish. So he says, big catfish, big bait. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to catch like a perch or something like this. I caught a 3-pound carp. So I got this carp like this.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm going to put it on a limb line. A limb line is a tree that hangs out over the water, and it was a cypress tree that just really bends like this. So you tie it on there, put it in the back of the fish, and you just let it sit there overnight. So I'm saying, okay.
So so this hook and everything is partially submerged in the water?
Yeah, the fish is probably about this
that far in the water. Okay.
And so the line is maybe 6 feet up, and then you've got a foot of
foot of water down there.
Well, the water was deeper than that, but
Yeah,
you only
but
put it
it's under a
because
foot.
if you put it way down on the bottom, the fish would swim under the brush
Gotcha.
and stuff. So anyway, so I said, I only had one day with this bait, and I'm saying, well, I mean, I'm getting ready to leave. I'm getting ready to do so. I go to the tree, and the line's just moving around like this, and I'm saying, okay, fish, I'm going to pull you out. So I lifted that line up, and this mouth comes up. 54-pound catfish.
54-pound catfish.
We got a picture of it here in their store.
That's the one?
Yeah.
Really?
It's a 54-pound catfish. So, but then it's like, holy smoly, and I didn't have a net or anything, so I had to go back and get a net to try to. It's tough to bring. It's like a 50-pound king salmon.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen too often. So.
No. Dang.
So anyway, that's a couple of.
So that catfish, because it's your dad that's in the picture, right?
I took a picture of him.
You took of
with
him
the
holding
catfish.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's one that you caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking at that picture for decades.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but my dad's biggest catfish was 91 pounds.
91 pounds for a catfish.
Yeah. So
Is the meat similar throughout the different sizes? Because a lot of people say like the real big halibut, they don't enjoy that as a smaller. Is it the same with catfish?
As good. I mean, I would much rather get. We used to catch a lot of these small 1 and 2 pound fish, which are a lot nicer, but I'm not going to turn down a big catfish like that. So anyway,
did you play any sports in high school?
I did. I played tennis.
You were really?
I played tennis in high school, and I actually got a scholarship to a junior college to play tennis.
Seriously?
But the problem was I
never knew you were a tennis player.
I was a tennis player, but this is what happened. I think when I was a freshman, I was 5'2". When I was a sophomore, I was 5'11".
9 inches and holy
in 1
cow.
year. So my knees were really.
Oh, they had to have been hurting like crazy.
So that was an issue that really kind of sprang. I mean, it was probably over a year and a half, but I had this big growth spurt or something like that. So,
how'd your mom and dad keep you in clothes?
Well,
I was gonna say in
Texas, a lot of them were shorts.
So. Shorts, but still, you'd wear it for a week and it'd be too small.
Yeah. Well, I got to have your one tennis story.
Tell me all the tennis stories here. I never knew you were a tennis player.
Okay, so I was playing doubles, and my partner and I. It's kind of like when we have a basketball tournament here, but when we play a different team, you have 2 singles teams and 2 doubles teams.
Okay.
So we went to this place to play, and it was about an hour and a half drive. So I was our coach kind of cheated. So we could have a number 1 doubles team and a number 2 doubles team. So I was really the number 2 doubles team. But they wanted our number 2
to play the number 2. They didn't want to play
our number 1 to play their number 2.
Yeah.
So they put us with the number 1. So it was like there was no way we were supposed to win. So we're playing, and everybody's done except for us, and we're playing. When you play tennis, you got to win 2 out of 3 sets.
Yep.
And a set is 6 games. For people that don't know that. So anyway, so. My doubles partner was a pretty tall guy, and he had a really wicked serve, but he was terribly inaccurate. I mean, it just never went in, but it was really good. But it's like every serve was going in, and it was like you've played 6 games, and they're all watching us. Okay, it got to 5-5 games, and then it got to be 6-5. They got ahead because they were serving. Then it was our turn to serve, and our team was saying, lose. They want you to lose.
They wanted you to lose?
They wanted us to lose so they didn't have to play another set. So we could go home. They wanted to go home. So I still remember my doubles partner was playing so good, and he just did this wicked serve twice in a row, and both of them went out. So that's how we ended up losing.
That's harsh when your own team's wanting you to lose. You have a chance to upset the other top team. And
Anyway, so
did you play all 4 years then?
Yeah.
In high school playing tennis?
Yeah. Here's another one that was kind of a bizarre one. So I traveled to Corpus Christi, which is, 200, 300 miles from us, on a tournament my freshman year, and they housed me with a family in Corpus Christi who played tennis or something, and they were really good. I wasn't. So anyway, but they came and watched me play tennis. The last point of the game, it was a lob. A lob is when you're at the net and they hit it over your head, and I'm running back, hit me right on the head. Ended the game by getting hit on the head with a tennis ball. So
I don't think anybody that has played sports, if they say they've never had a similar moment such as that, they're probably lying. At some point during any type of sporting career, you're going to have one kind of flub that is ridiculously crazy. I remember being in high school that I don't remember who we were playing. I don't remember what year. I don't know if I stole it, somebody else stole it. I was up ahead. Anyhow, I'm running down the gym. There's nobody between me and the basket. I'm going up for a layup. And as I plant, my left knee gives away, and the ball I don't even think got to the rim, and I fall down on the court. And I was like, seriously, I know how to do this, but yeah, knee just gave away, down the court, turnover, going the other way. And embarrassing as all get out. Yeah. You're thinking you got 2 points, and nope, turnover instead.
So here's the only basketball story I can recall. I think I was in 6th grade. Remember, I'm 5 foot. I'm a little
guy.
Little guy. I cannot play basketball at all, but it was an intramural, so you had to play basketball. But the coach said, if you get a foul, you get a swat.
Wait, what?
A foul is a swat.
Foul's a swat. Oh, man, I would have been gotten beaten. I was fouling out just about every game.
So anyway, I'm sitting there, and I just kind of was hanging out in the middle. They never passed the ball to me or anything like that, but I'm under the opposing person's basket, and they do a breakaway, and they said, stop him. I don't even know what I'm doing, so I just went like that with my arms, and boom, foul, Badgley, bend over.
And you got a swat? Dang. That's some hardcore coaching, Al.
Hey.
It
wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Could have been.
But I think that's like the only swat I got in the whole school was because of a foul in basketball. So
you did pretty good then.
Yeah. So, anyway.
So you get through high school doing a lot of hunting fishing. You go to Texas A&M.
Yep.
You're back home pretty much every weekend hunting and fishing while you're going through Texas.
Just during the main hunting and fishing
during the season.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we go down there and fish for catfish or something like that. It's about a hour and a half, 2 hour drive from College Station to my hometown. So.
Okay. So the rest of the time, what was college like at Texas A&M at the time?
Well, my dad he bought an acre of property about 3 miles from campus, and we put a little trailer on it, and he dug a septic system and put it in there, and he said, what I'm going to do is we're going to buy this, and we're going to sell it when you're done, and we'll get your housing for free.
Okay.
Which is what he ended up doing.
Yeah.
But being off campus, I really never had any major campus.
Yeah, so you're just going to class, going back to the trailer to study, and
that was kind of it. But I've spent 2 years in a junior college because I got it for free playing tennis.
So you did. So you got the scholarship to go play tennis. So you did that for 2 years
At a junior college in our hometown.
Okay, and then you went and did.
But I couldn't even make water boy at A&M. So, so that was about, my tennis level was not super great or something like that. So,
yeah.
So anyway, so being in the hunting and fishing family, degree in wildlife and fisheries, I got it planned. I'm going to get a job as a fisheries hunting biologist or something in Texas and go strong there. But in hindsight, my dad was in Alaska working on the pipeline, et cetera, like that. And
what year did he start working up in Alaska?
Mid-60s, I think.
Mid-60s?
Yeah.
And so you were how old when he was doing that again? You said
12,
13?
Something like that.
So he was working on the pipeline project pretty much.
He's on the beginning.
From the very, very beginning. He was
Right.
up there
But
working on
he
that.
was doing it when they were putting the pipe, just getting the pipe set up or something like that. So he actually had to inspect welds when they were welding them together, and he had to make sure when they stacked the pipe that they didn't dent any of the pipes, etc. when they stacked them all up. And I mean, that pipe was really big. So,
and so that led to, you said I think it was 1972 was the first time you came to Haines?
right. That's the first time I came to Haines, and it kind of came up in the fact that I think it was during that 2 weeks off when my dad could get off, that instead of him flying down to Texas, I got flown up with my mom up to Haines.
Okay.
And we were here, and that's when they had a property sale out at Lutak. They were selling some lots over there, and he ended up buying a 3-acre lot at the far end of Lutak, 10-mile Lutak Road. So,
yeah. And so did your aunt and uncle, were they here before 72?
they were here before, but they bought at the same time that.
Yeah. But so they came up, and because they came up, and I think that's probably why your dad met you guys here, is because they'd already been here.
They were here.
Yeah, so they just come up on vacation tour in Alaska then?
Well,
or?
they knew some people from other things that they, Peck Nelson, I don't know if you ever remember them or not.
Don't
Anyway,
remember the name.
but I mean, that was probably, because they were old when I came here when I was 12, so they probably might not even been still around when you came. But anyway, they knew them, and when I came up when I was 12, my dad was only here for just part of that time, and they had a place that they were house sitting out at Mosquito Lake.
Okay.
So I stayed out at Mosquito Lake, and I went out there. Guess what I got to do when I was at Mosquito?
Yeah, I bet you were fishing all the time, weren't you?
I was fishing and if you know Mosquito Lake at all, there used to be a little creek that came into Mosquito Lake at the far end or something like that. So I'm sitting, I'm 16 years old or something like that. So I would go to this little creek and I would paddle in there or something. The creek's about 15, 20 feet wide, and I'm sitting there in a 12-foot boat. And I look down the far end of the creek. A bear comes out, probably 50 yards away. And I'm saying, okay, I'm not used to bears. So, I mean, I'm from Texas.
It's a
we
new
don't see
experience
bears.
for you.
So, and then it's like, okay, well, what do I do? And I'm saying, it's just there, and he's going to leave because he'll probably see me. But then I hear crunch, 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 and it's coming down the bank towards me. And then I look, and the next open spot where he's going to look is like right there.
Right there.
Right the front of the boat. So he's coming, and it's like, I don't have a motor. I'm just like paddling.
All you oars or just a paddle?
It was I had oars, but it's like,
yeah.
So anyway, I'm saying, man, I am not going to be able to outrow him. So I got my oar. I'm standing up with my oar. And it's like, I hear him coming, and it's like, well, I'm not going to do anything if I hit him. So I just hit the side of the boat.
Yeah.
He didn't know I was there.
Oh, it scared the heck out of him, didn't
So
it?
he just
He took
off and went the other way. So
Well, I'm glad you didn't have to fight off a bear with an oar.
I might have had a less successful outcome if that would have been bear versus.
That was good thinking there. But up in Mosquito Lake, huh?
Yeah.
Dang. So then your dad eventually built cabin out on the property.
Right. In the summers, we would come up, and my dad did not really like winters because he had already spent enough winters. He retired just about, sometime in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So he would come up in the summertime, and we built a log cabin, and then I would come up during high school during the summertime, and then I would leave, etc., like that. And then I came up all the way till about I graduated from college in 78. Okay. So then it's like, okay, I got my degree. Now I got to get a job somewhere. So I used my degree to hang sheetrock.
Seriously?
That was your my first job was hanging. Well, actually, my first job my dad got me was working at the refinery where he worked.
Uh-huh.
And it was a terrible job. What they had is they had all these pipes, and they were all hot pipes, so you had to put insulation around them. So you would get up on a ladder, and they had these two pieces. It's almost like sheetrock stuff, but it was formed to a pipe, and you would put it around there. You would wire it, then you put metal around the outside, and then you would wire the metal on. And that's what you did
all day long.
All day long.
7 days, 5 days a week.
5 days a week, and it's like that's just not really my.
You didn't find that motivating.
That was not
life.
a motivating factor for me right there.
So how long did you work at the refinery?
That one summer.
You worked one summer, and then you're like, I'm out of here.
So
sorry, Dad.
I got to do something different like that. So, and then I think that was the summer right before I didn't go the next year, because then I started trying to get my job out of college there. So,
but as you guys, so when you're out at LUTAC in the summers, when you're still coming up here, your dad's there. What I remember from when I was really young with the Badgleys is it seemed like you guys were fishing every single day.
Well,
that might have been an exaggeration, but it seemed like
we fished a lot.
You like to fish.
We like to fish a lot, and we would go down the river, and I mean, back in those times, we were not allowed to do subsistence netting like we are now.
Yeah.
And actually, we couldn't because we weren't Alaskan residents.
We were a resident.
But we could rod and reel fish, and they did a lot of rod and reel fishing.
Yeah.
So that was something.
A lot of halibut fishing, too, if I remember correctly.
We did a lot of halibut fishing, but we didn't do as much until the summers when I was working up north, and we'll get into my...
Okay.
So when I moved up here in 1980...
Let's go back. I want to hear more about the sheetrocking deal.
Okay.
So you're doing the pipe insulating during college.
Right.
And then you get out, you graduate, you got your degree in fish and wildlife management. How'd you end up in sheetrocking?
So a good buddy of mine that we grew up together, he lived across the street from me, my duck hunting partner, my best man in my wedding, I'm best man, the people that we really worked together with a lot. He knew a guy that says, if you want to hang sheetrock, and this was in big commercial buildings. So what you do is, you have a concrete floor, and they would lay out this, and you would nail gun steel plates in the floor, and then you make up a thing like that. So then put steel studs, and then you put sheetrock. But then we had to carry the sheet. We weren't using 12-foot sheetrock back then. It's only 8 foot. Yeah. But we had to, most of this was high rises, so you'd have to find an elevator, carry sheetrock in an elevator, lift it up, and then...
I thought that's why they got those big cranes up there, and they lift all that stuff up to the floor.
But this is remodels and stuff like this.
Oh, this was remodels, so they didn't have that.
Yeah. Some of it was new, but some of it was remodel. The remodels usually didn't have as much actual sheetrock. You didn't have to move hundreds of sheets. You only had to move maybe 10 or 20 sheets or something like that.
So you're having to haul that into the elevator, run it up to whatever floor you're doing the stuff on, and
then but I didn't have to mud it. All I had to do was hang it.
All you had to do was hang it.
So if I had made a hole, I mean, the mudders would cover for you.
They might be cussing about you later, but they're not going to know who it was.
Right.
So you didn't sign your name on the holes.
No, we didn't do that, and we worked. But we did use screw guns. I mean, you can't use a nail in steel studs. It just doesn't work. So anyway, so
how long were you doing that job for?
That was 1 year. So I graduated in 78 in December, because part of my junior college credits didn't transfer over, so I had to do another semester. So I did that for probably, well, a year, because in 80s when I moved up to Alaska. So I tried for a while to get a job in fishing game in Texas, and it's like, there was like 30 people in my graduating class in fishing game, and there's like 2 openings in the state for any fishing game person. So it's not happening in there.
Yeah.
So then I said, well, I got a better chance of getting a job in fishing game once I get to Alaska, if I go to Alaska. And we have this cabin in Alaska that I could stay at. So, hey, it's not too bad.
Seems like a pretty good plan.
So in May of 1980, I move up to Alaska, and things are good. Here's a situation that happened my first winter here. Since I said, what am I going to do? There's no fishing game jobs. I couldn't get a job right off the bat. I didn't know what I was doing, but I worked at one of the local stores here for my first summer here, and then I just lost my train. Oh, I was substitute teaching part-time, so in the wintertime. So I am 10 miles out.
What classes?
Science.
In high school?
No, I was in high school.
High school
for Frank Holmes.
Okay.
So anyway, so I get on the thing. First time there's no phone out where we live.
Yeah.
So I got word that I'm supposed to be in 8:30 the next morning or something like that. We have a 2.5-foot snowstorm that night. So I wake up like at 6 in the morning, and I'm saying, how am I going to shovel 10 miles? So basically I started trying to shovel my car out, and I'm saying, this is not going to work.
This isn't going to work.
They canceled school.
Yeah.
I mean, but they couldn't tell me they canceled school.
How much snow did you move before you found out they canceled school and you could go back in and rest?
So I just shoveled them, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes worth, but it was like, I'm saying there's no, and back then going out to Lutak, and I mean, I don't know if you remember the road going out to Lutak, that was Pothole City.
Pothole City. Yeah, and it took a while to get that plowed, and yeah, definitely weren't phone lines out there in 1980 either.
All right. So the phone line's going to come up here in a minute on one of my next stories here.
Yeah. So how did you ever end up doing anything in fish and wildlife?
We're coming up on that. So basically what happened the next, I guess, spring of 81, I got my cousin was up here, and also the Putnams. I don't know if you remember them or not, but she was a whole lot smarter than I was. So she says, I'm going to write you up a resume for Fish and Game to send into the Fish and Game offices here. So she wrote me up a resume, and then they had what's called the Sioux Hydro Project. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but they were determining whether or not they could put a hydro plant on the Susitna River. So they were doing a 4-year study on the Susitna River, and they needed people. And when you did this study, you were out for 2.5 months. You just went out to this place, and you stayed in tents, etc., out there, and you ran fish wheels.
Okay.
So you would count fish wheels, count fish out of fish wheels and stuff like that. And we had to tag every fish. And I don't know if you heard of a spaghetti tag, but a spaghetti tag is like a piece of spaghetti, but it's rubbery. And you had a needle, and you stuck the rubber part in the hollow part of the needle, and you ran it through the back of the fish. Then you had to do a quick tie, and then you would throw it overboard. And then each tag had a number on it. So they knew when you tagged that fish and where you tagged that fish. So later on, if they found one in a spawning hole, they could say, okay, well, this fish was tagged on this day, and that's how long it took them to get to this location or something like that.
Okay.
So my big story on that is I went to an area, what's called the Yetna River, which is a little offshoot, and it was a lot less congested than in one of the other areas. But since ours wasn't as many fish, they took me for a week to go to this place where there was a lot of fish. And there was 4 fish wheels at this one place, and there was 2 of us just to cover 2 fish wheels. In a 12-hour shift, we tagged 1,200 salmon.
1,200 salmon
in a 12-hour shift.
Wow.
So basically,
you were wore out.
Yeah.
Holy cow, 1,200 fish an hour.
Right. But what you were supposed to do, but there's no way you could do it, is you're supposed to dip a fish out of the live well and hold it up and do that. Yeah. But our nets were big enough. A lot of these were pinks and some of them were chums, so they weren't huge fish. So we would do like 6. So you would have this thing of fish and you would just go.
Yeah.
So you could do 5 or 6 in a minute, as many as you could get in the net.
Yeah.
And then but I tell you one thing, I mean, my arms, because you have to grab the fish and you bend the fish like this so the fish doesn't flop, and you're holding it like this, and then someone tags
does the tag on it. Yeah.
And you alternate who does the tagging or something like that. But then it's like some people are really good at tagging and some people aren't. And there was one person I remember, the quickest way to tag is to put that needle in your mouth between fish. You would stab it, put it like that, and then you could get another tag and do that, because otherwise, to get the tag on, you're sitting there. So there was a couple of people that wouldn't do it. So they would try to set it down.
Okay.
And then
if you set it down, then
it would just take too long. You could never. Yeah. And then some of the time the fish were coming in. There's my biggest scoop. You guys know what a fish wheel scoop is.
Yeah.
14 pinks in one scoop. So it was like, man, you can't keep up with that. So we had to stop the wheels at times because there was just too many fish.
1,200 in an hour.
That was my biggest day.
Dang.
So
did you just do that the one summer, or how long were you up there?
I was doing that for 3 summers.
3 summers. And then you were back in Haines in the wintertime?
Yeah.
And what, were you still substitute teaching, or were you doing other things in the wintertime when you're back in Haines then?
I was doing a few other things besides that. We got something that kind of changed my whole dynamics here. So remember, I moved here in May of 80.
Yep.
In February of 81, my dad had a heart attack in Texas.
Okay.
So I left. We did not have oil heat. We had a little pot burner stove that kept the house around 35.
Yeah.
So it was touch and go for a while, but my dad came out all right. So I come back in February or something like that, and to try to stay in a house that's 35 degrees, I built a big fire in the fireplace. I went to my neighbors for dinner. House was going to warm up, and the house really warmed up.
House warmed up in a big way, much bigger than you'd anticipated.
Correct. So we had a total log cabin house fire, and we talked about no telephones.
Yep.
They had to drive to the ferry terminal to call the fire department. So and back then it was not an easy drive to the ferry terminal.
No.
So I see this house on fire. I grab a 5-gallon bucket. I mean, this is how ignorant I am. 5-gallon bucket. I run to the bay. I bring it up, and I'm saying,
not going to be enough.
This ain't going to cut it, man.
This isn't going to. I need more buckets.
Going to need more buckets. So basically, I watched the log cabin that was really built burn to the ground. But the fire department came out, and basically I watched these guys, and actually they saved a side building that had all our fishing gear and stuff in it, because it wasn't attached right to it.
Mm-hmm.
But what was attached right to it was propane cylinders, and those started going off.
Ooh.
So, I mean, and they would go off like a flamethrower because they would blow the end off and it would just shoot flames just like a...
Yeah.
So, and then of course, we had ammunition in there and it was going off and all kinds of fun things like that. But what had happened is, I guess it's good and bad, my clothes from my trip were still in my car.
Okay.
But everything else that I owned
Was in
the cabin. Except for all my fishing clothes that were in the so we had these coveralls and waders and stuff like that, so I could wade anywhere I wanted to, but I could. So that was a challenge right there to get that. But what that did is I just watched these guys. Everybody worked hard and they saved that, and it's like, man, I can do that. I can help some guys out or something like that. I had never really had any inkling about being a firefighter. Didn't know anything about firefighting. You can tell by my bucket how much firefighting experience I had. So I said, okay, I'm going to join the fire department. So in April of '81, I joined as a volunteer fire department.
Okay.
And I said, okay, well, you know, don't have a permanent job or something, so I can maybe learn something. And I don't know if anybody knows what happened mid-May of '81. My first fire, one meeting, the Barracks fire.
Yep.
14 hours on a fire hose. My first 1.5 million gallons of water.
They used 1.5 million a gallon?
That's what they figured they used. But
I remember me and, I don't know which of my friends, I don't know if it was the Heinrichs or if it was Scotty and Jason or whoever. I remember us riding our bikes over there as they were cleaning up afterwards or whatever after that fire and just watching that. And it had been shortly before that they had, back in the day, they had, what was it called? Where you'd have there's a day on the job or something. Do you remember that, Sam? That you'd go, as when you're in like 4th and 5th grade, you can go and shadow somebody at their job.
Sure.
And I thought I marked down KHNS because I thought the radio thing would be pretty cool. But I got with the Chilkat Valley News, and their office and the printing press was in the basement of the barracks.
That's true.
And so shortly before that fire with
Hartman.
Yep, Bill Hartman going down there setting type with the old printing press and everything in that spot in the basement of the barracks. And then it was just several months later that things up in flames, and just seeing that whole piece of history lost. So that was your first fire
that was my first fire 1 month after
joining the department. Were you thinking at that time like maybe this is more than I was thinking I was going to get into?
To start with, it was, but I'm driving in from Lutak, and when I get just about to the sawmill, I can see flames. It's like
their flames are that high. You're seeing them at the holy cow.
Actually, I must know right when I rounded Garbage Point.
Okay.
Not
I was
Garbage
going to
Point,
say
Tank Farm Point.
Tank Farm Point.
Yeah, it was Tank Farm Point. I mean, it's right as soon as I could see that, I could see the flames, and it's like, whoa, this is not going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought it was going to be fun. So anyway, but it was a long day.
So but then that summer you went back up north and were still doing the fish.
Right. So that's the first year I started doing the fish. And then actually, it was either that year or the next summer, I got a gig that was really pretty amazing. They were doing something at, I think it's Chandelar River or something up
in the Brooks Range?
Yeah, up in the Brooks Range.
Yeah.
So basically they needed a fisheries biologist to go out there, and they stayed at a lodge, and they would fly you by helicopter to these areas, and you set out fish traps to trap fish and to tag them, and then you would fly back by helicopter to the lodge every night.
They paid you to do that?
They paid you to do that.
There are people who do that for free.
Yeah.
There's people that pay to go do that.
But I didn't get the biggest job. The best job that I saw was I think I applied for it, but I didn't get it. they would fly you to remote lakes and drop you off by helicopter, and you would fish for 2 days in a remote lake, and you got paid 16 hours to fish for whatever you could catch in there to see what was in these lakes. And then they would come pick you up. So people would pay thousands of dollars to do this, and people were getting paid.
Getting paid to go do that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So anyway, so after...
Because when you're talking the Chandelar, when my first sheep hunt was in the Chandelar area, that place is absolutely gorgeous.
It was beautiful up there.
That
I mean,
is
just to go
amazing.
up there with, helicopter and go see all the
Yeah,
stuff.
you got to see a ton of it, I bet.
And one of the things that was kind of neat was the fact that the guy that was our pilot was a Vietnam pilot.
Okay.
And he says, "You want to see what it was like in Vietnam?"
Oh, did he take you on some...
So basically, he would go like 5 feet off the ground at 120 miles an hour, and then he would come up to a row of trees and jump the trees and go right back down. And it's like, okay, that's good.
So, similar story. Several years ago, 20 plus years ago, I think all statutes of limitations, if there are any, and most of the people associated with us are no longer with us, but my dad had done some kind of a trade with Doug McConan, who was a pilot for Trans-North Air in Haines Junction. And I can't remember what the trade was, but my dad needed to be dropped off at a mountain lake so he could fish for lake trout. That was the deal. And Doug had the helicopter. So I did this trade. Since my dad's in a wheelchair, I go along to help him in and out of the helicopter. My mom's there and Ron Martin. And my dad had designed these different lures that he wanted to test out and see how good they were. So we bring our fishing rods and everything. We stop at a couple lakes. Can't really figure out a way to get my dad down to
The lake, actually.
there's no handicap access.
Yes.
We got the wheelchair, but we can't really. He's like, no. Finally, we stop at one. And my dad's like, no, you guys just go fishing. He says, I don't want to deal with it. Every single cast, we were catching something. And so my dad's like, those lures work. Like, Dad, these fish have probably never ever seen a fishing lure in their life. I don't think this is a fair comparison.
Yep.
But anyhow, we get back in the helicopter. We're cruising around, and he's showing us most of the Kluane area by helicopter. And I mentioned to him, I was like, man, it doesn't seem, anytime you're in a plane or a helicopter, it doesn't seem like you're going that fast. He goes, do you want to have a better idea? I was like, what are you talking about? And so we go over, because we're close to the highway. So he veers over to the highway. We dropped down, and we were probably 100 feet over the highway, if that. It might have been even 50. And we're like, okay, this feels a lot faster when you're right along the highway. And we come up to a corner, and there's a car coming the other way, and up we go. And that guy in that car was probably going, what the hell am I getting into?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. No, that was, I can't remember how many hours of helicopter time we got cruising around Kluane. We saw probably 80% of the park by helicopter for that trade. But we did catch some lake trout too.
There you go.
Good time.
Okay, so now we're just getting with the fire departments.
Yeah, we're just
scenario
getting
here,
started with the fire department.
Okay, so basically I started in 81, and then I got my EMT in 85.
Okay.
So
And this was, so you're
I was a
working,
volunteer.
as a volunteer, you're working in the summertime, which mainly takes you out of Haines.
But it was like a 4.5 months.
4.5
5 months. So
Yeah, so you've got 6.5, 7 months where you're in Haines,
Right.
volunteer fire department. Were you doing anything else in Haines during that
right,
time?
I was odd jobbing it here. I did some substitute teaching. I worked for Glenn Hendricks as an electrical assistant,
Okay.
etc. like that. And I just did a few.
Did what you could to pay the bills, kind of thing.
Just kind of, but kind of the good thing about it was basically my folks didn't charge me rent. And what happened after the fire is they brought a trailer into that property, and they moved a trailer in there. So we were able to stay in the trailer. So they were gone. They were only there in the summer. So I was there in the winter. They say, you shovel the snow, clean it up.
Don't burn the trailer down.
Don't burn the trailer down, and we'll call it a
even.
fair trade. And so I was able to, basically in 7 years of working 5 months out of the year with no expenses, because they paid for room and board and food and
when
everything
you're on
in
the
Fish and
fish
Game. So
Yeah.
I was able to pay for my house with cash,
Nice.
which makes a huge startup difference.
Yep.
So we haven't got to building the house yet, but anyway.
Nope, we'll get there.
We got
there.
time. So anyway, so in 85, I decided, well, hey, I can help people with a first aid. So I said, I'm going to take an EMT1 class. So we took an EMT1 class, and back then there was some really good EMTs we had. We had John Bruce, he was a physician assistant, Bob Adkins, Terry Chambroy, all these people that were, top notch. And it was like this first year, it was kind of a piece of cake. We had everybody. And this was also the Stan Jones era, where Stan Jones went on every call and helped you out with anything. Yeah. So
who's the local doctor?
He was our local doctor here for the longest time. And so I got it in January of 85. In December of 85, all of these people that were trained had to get recertified. And to get recertified, you had to go to Sitka to get recertification. And they said, we're not going to recertify. So we went from having 6 or 7 super well-trained ambulance responders to 3 EMT1s. January 1st.
January 1st.
Of 1986.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow. So it was Cindy Jones, CJ, Ray Lewis, and myself. And it was, and Stan, who would go out with us. But I still remember one of those times, they were out of town, so I had a call, and I drove the ambulance there, but nobody else was there.
You were the only one that showed up on the call?
I was the only one that showed up. And then eventually, I think Alan Heinrich came and helped me just to put the gurney in the back of the ambulance. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, well, I can't be in the back of the ambulance and drive at the same time. So I think he ended up driving me back there, because Alan is also a firefighter, but he was not really ever a medical responder, but he helped out like that. So anyway, and it was a transition time frame from going from really high level training to a little bit less trained folks or something like. And being an EMT1, you have limited access of what you can do. So basically, while I was doing that, we also had Dick Jackson. I don't know if you know Stonewall Jackson. Yep. Basically, he was the one paid firefighter. Mm-hmm. And Dick Jackson was known, he could make a bolt or anything. He was a machinist. He could make anything. Yep. But you never want him driving because he was wild as a driver. So basically, he was the paid fireman. He actually, and John Jennings and stuff, they built 2 fire trucks out of logging trucks. They converted them into it. So, and that's what he was doing in the mid-'80s or something like that. So, in December of 87, Dick Jackson was going to retire. So I said, well, I'm an EMT1. I'm a firefighter that's got a barracks fire under my belt. I can probably do that job. So, but I was going down for Christmas to see my folks down in Texas. So they said, the job's going to be open January 1st. So I said, well, I'm not going to be back till the 11th. So I found out I got the job as the paid firefighter here. Yep. And it's like, okay. Dick Jackson left. He was not there.
He wasn't there?
He was not there. There was nobody there. So January 11th, 1988, I walk up the stairs at the fire department. I knew where the meeting, the desk and everything was, because I'd gone to the trainings. There's a little piece of paper that says, "Welcome to the Haines Volunteer Fire Department."
And that was your starting point.
That was my starting point. And it's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do now? But one of the things that also happened is Frank Wallace. Some people may remember Frank Wallace, but
longtime Haines resident,
longtime Haines
mayor.
resident. He was a mayor, but he was also our fire chief
Yep,
for
fire chief for a long time.
So basically, he was there to help people, help me get kind of started. But he was kind of saying, we're going to veer off of having a person that can build stuff. We need to have more community involvement, trying to get things like that, getting some more training, etc. So we said, okay, well, I'm going to have to start learning. So I had to take some methods of instruction class. I had to take EMT2 classes, EMT3 classes. So I started taking all of these Firefighter 1 classes, Firefighter 2, 3 classes to try to get organized or something like that. So there was a few things that got developed in those late 80s, early 90s that have really been carried on from now, because basically we have the fire prevention program, which has really gone pretty strong for that long time frame. So we've really kind of brought it in. I mean, I think people would go in for like career day and they would talk about fire stuff, but actually having people come to the fire station or go to the fire station and talk about, stop, drop, and roll for the little kids. And then we ended up building things in the fire station where we have an escape ladder where you can actually throw a ladder out a window and crawl down an escape ladder. We do have a harness on the kids so they don't fall down.
So what grades do you do that with?
We go preschool all the way to 8th grade.
All the way to 8th grade. And you do that every year during fire
Every year,
prevention
but
week?
every grade's got a different thing. We have fire extinguishers for part of the time. We have smoke room for part of the time. We have escape ladder for part of the time. And one of them is also like EMS familiarization. We actually do blood pressures and show them the ambulance and how to get the gurney out and all the different pieces of equipment and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that happens. So some of it get duplicated, but I mean, there's probably very few people that when they're in 8th grade have used a fire extinguisher 2 or 3 times to put out a real fire. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's probably people out there that are watching this that maybe never used a fire extinguisher. So that's something that we do in October. And if you're in Haines sometime, come by the station and we'll set it up for you.
It's a full-on deal. Yep. Because we get to see all the kids go by on the fire trucks. Because you give them a ride on the fire truck, too.
That's something that's probably going to happen at some point in time, to actually have kids ride on top of a fire truck
that's probably going to be coming to a play.
It might be a situation, but we're small town Alaska, so let's keep it quiet.
Not very many people listen to this yet, so it's good. The word's not going to get out. We're not going to have the regulators crawling over the fire department.
But then another thing we also did was Clint Amix. I don't know if you remember Clint Amix.
Clint, he's the one that got us into the grocery business.
Right. Yeah. So Clint was in the grocery business, but he was also from the fair state of Texas.
Texan.
And basically he says the fire department needs to do a barbecue. So we're going to do a 4th of July barbecue. So we started doing a 4th of July barbecue, I think either in 89 or 90, something like that. So we've been doing the fire department 4th of July barbecue for the last lot of years.
And the money from that goes to the scholarships,
It goes to scholarship funds, and if we have some, we also can get certain pieces of equipment that we can use if if we got a special piece of equipment maybe we want to get or something like that.
And how many people do you guys serve on that one day around the 4th of July for the barbecue?
It's a 3 hours that we actually serve, and I think our biggest day was 750.
750 people in 3 hours. You guys move
some beef. But it's mainly, I would say, in the 400 to 500 range in that ballpark. So
still, that's a lot of people in 3 hours.
But we've kind of got it dialed in.
You guys got it dialed in, I got to say, because the years that I helped you with the cooking on that, and then just seeing all the stuff that you guys are planning this a couple months ahead of time. Right.
But we have a lot of volunteers that help out. Like we make 120 pounds of potatoes in the potato salad. Yeah. So it's probably 200 pounds of potato salad. We make 8 roaster ovens of beans and like 8 things of coleslaw. And we used to do
And you have that, so everybody gets the recipe, right? For
right.
like the potato salad.
Basically,
Here's
for the potato salad, this is everything. You just cook the potatoes, peel the potatoes, put them in here, put all this stuff in there, and bring it back to us Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
So, and it's a 20-pound bag of potatoes that you get.
Okay.
So
if anybody's out there wanting to know how they can help out the barbecue.
yeah, if you want to help the fire department, you can do that, or you can help cook beans, etc., like that, or help serve, etc. That's something else that works.
That's the thing too. When you guys got that going, it does not take long to serve people because you just go through that line and you guys just go right down.
Yeah,
the
we
row
have people lined up in each section, and it's like, you want potato salad, coleslaw, or both, and it's just they just start passing the plates down, and we have the drinks used to be a big holdup. Because we used to have people would have the big serving dispensers, and they would go under there and do it. But we ended up now, we just have tables that you have iced tea, lemonade, or combo. Yeah. And they're just all there. So you just come by and grab it, and then you just ready to go. So
yeah. No, yeah. Going over there and watching that, you guys definitely have that dialed in. So you got the job 87, right?
88.
88. January of 88. You start the job.
Right.
Were you here in September or in October of 87? Did you respond when my dad broke his back? Were you here for that?
I was still working at Fish and Game.
Fish and Game.
I was gone.
Okay.
So
I was just wondering about that. Yeah, because it was right before you took over there is when he broke his back.
Yeah. So, yeah, I heard about it. I mean, but I saw, when I came here in 72, I saw when they were building the fire station. They were putting
you were telling me about that.
It was a swamp. It was just water, and there were boats out in the water, and they were pulling up these big pilings, and it's like, what are they doing in this swamp? So,
and now that building's in not so great shape.
Well, basically, I've crawled under that building a few times, and there's been a lot of water under there, and who knows what's under those. There's a lot of...
Yeah, that was not the most stable foundation that they built that building on back in the day. And it was a modular structure, right? And wasn't it big sections that they came in?
Yeah, it came in different parts.
Different parts, they stacked them up.
I don't really know how they built it because I only saw the part. It was already built when I came back up, but I just saw them putting the pilings in earlier or something like that.
So let's this might be in the same time frame. What year was it that you met your wife? Because you met her in Haines, right?
Correct.
Because she came up to work at the Presbyterian Church, right?
Correct. So basically, she came in October of 88.
Okay.
So this is kind of a couple of interesting scenarios in here. We're maybe off track from fire, but so basically, when my wife came up, she was called a volunteer in mission, and part of being a volunteer in mission was the fact that you would go once a week to different members of the church for dinner that night, and you would socialize with the family, etc. And but you didn't have to pay for your meal.
Yeah.
So anyway, on Monday nights, which is fire meeting nights, my cousin who was here also had Crystal over for Monday night meals with her. But she had me over because I was a bachelor back then, and any free meal is a good meal for a bachelor.
I hear that.
So that's kind of how we met to start with, and got a couple of stories with this. We maybe want to
go ahead. Let's tell them now. We can go. We're all over the place, Al.
Okay.
We don't have any defined story time here.
So basically, for a while there, she was only supposed to stay a year, and then she got talked into staying a second year. So
who talked her into staying the extra year? Was that Al, or was that the church or something?
It was the church.
Or was it a combination?
Basically, it was a couple of different things were happening. One is the fact that she was thinking about going to seminary.
Okay, yeah.
But she says, I'm not really sure what's going on. So she stayed a second year, and she was actually staying with the Swift family when she was here. So, and one of the things that she didn't have was a car. So I had 2 cars. So I let her borrow one of my cars.
Good move.
So anyway, so basically, and we would see each other at basketball games. With being a youth worker, she's supposed to go to basketball games. And then we would make this strange bets like, I think that Haines is going to have 5 points at the end of this quarter or something like that. And, we'd do all this dumb stuff. So anyway, so I was getting more in tune, thinking this could be a good relationship. And I thought for a while she was going to be that way. But then at some point in time, I think she was saying, well, I'm going to go to seminary and I don't want to have a serious relationship. So basically, I just kind of found out that this is kind of what I think she was going to be doing. And then somehow she was driving and got the car stuck or something. And then she calls me and says, can you help me get unstuck?
I got the car you're borrowing me stuck. Can you help me?
So anyway, so we helped out. And this was the same time frame when White Fang was being filmed here.
Yeah.
So anyway, basically it was coming up on the end of her second year, and it's like, okay, it's just, we were getting pretty close, but it's like, I'm thinking that she's either going to leave and go to seminary because she's not staying another year, or I'm going to have to get more serious in this scenario. So anyway, we were probably dating somewhat, and then it's got to the point where I'm going to propose to her. This is going to get serious. So I get flowers, dinner, everything all set up. I invite her over. I think she knows what's going on. And I'm just getting ready to start my procedure, and beep hop, beep hop.
The plectron goes off.
The plectron goes off, and it says, I'm not going to do this. But then they say, we have a person that tried to jump from the dock to a barge at the Lutak dock, and he's fallen between the two on the bull, I don't know, the bull, whatever that log is that keeps him, and he's down there. And it's like, this is not, and I mean, we're back to, remember how many people we have? We don't
have many people responding.
We only have 3 people or something.
And this guy's poor decision is going to keep you from getting married.
Right. So anyway, so basically I go to help this guy, and the guy ended up, I think he survived this. I mean, he survived getting him out of there, but we got that. But then it's like, well, that evening shot. So next week,
another dinner,
another
new
dinner,
flowers,
more flowers. But
did you turn your plectron off before?
We didn't turn it off on this one. But anyway, so she, I'm not positive on all of this, but she said that first week she was not sure she was going to say yes or no. Okay. But the second week she knew it was going to happen.
That guy did you a favor then.
So that maybe was a good scenario. She's going to watch this, and she's probably going to ream me out when she sees this.
That's all right. I hope Crystal does watch this, and she can come tell her side of the story too if she wants to. But that's one of those things that I know you and Crystal both are both people of a lot of faith and deep belief, and that's maybe that was just God's way of putting somebody there that Crystal wasn't quite ready for this jump yet. That let's give her another week to think about it and intervene, change the dynamics there a little bit. So all worked out for the best. Yeah. So the second time she said yes.
Yes. So anyway, and
had you going back to this because you said you had a story about building your house. You'd built your house by then?
So, yeah, we haven't got. So, what happened is while my dad had the house out at Lutak, there was no power out there except for generators.
Yep.
So, he bought an acre of property where my house currently is, and he moved a trailer in there, and he had power in it, and all he had was 10 freezers in it. Everybody out at Lutak put a freezer in there, and he rented out at $10 a month. You could plug your freezer in here.
Okay.
So he had this 1 acre piece of property out there, and basically, and then later on, they did take power out there, so it was obsolete. No one out at Lutak needed the power anymore because they had power out there. So we moved the trailer off, and then I decided that was a place to build. But how that developed in the fact that when I got the job with the fire department, I was 10 miles out, and they say that's too far to live. So you have to move closer. So in 88 and 89, I started building a house there. But one of the things that happened on the house is I designed the house, and I had Russ Walton help me build it. But when you work fish and game and you're out for 5 months out in the middle of nowhere, it's a situation where you have a lot of time. So I had graph paper, I drew plans and redrew plans and did all of this, and I wrote dumb stories and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, so also I have some pretty neat scenarios while I'm working fishing game. We're going to back up to that one real quick.
All right.
Okay, so out in fishing game, I'm out. This is for the last part of the time I was working out of by Fort Yukon up on the Sheetrock River. So on the Sheetrock River, we go from Circle, 100-mile boat ride up to this place, and we would camp out, and we had what's called side scan sonars. You'd run this pipe on the ground, and you would count fish going over. But the fish only came out at night because the water was too clear, so they only traveled at night. They would stay in the deeper pools. So we would count fish at night. You would have to actually, set up, and we'd take shifts. You would do every other hour, you would take a 15-minute shift to count fish. But what happened when you got there, Fish and Game would not allow you to hunt big game because Fish and Game had paid for you to get to that location. You could hunt waterfowl, but you couldn't hunt big game.
Okay.
So my boss, who had his own boat, this will come in a little bit, is the fact opening day of moose season, we get out of our tent, there's a bull moose standing on the gravel bar right by our camp. And before, what we were also hunting, you could hunt grouse. And, we had to spend about 2 or 3 hours during the day, but almost all night. So we had 8 hours of daylight that in the summer, you got daylight all the time, almost, that you could do whatever you wanted to, kind of. You would just, so we went walking. There was an old trapper's trail that I walked out, and I'd seen this huge bull moose in there. So I tell my boss that, hey, I saw a bull moose opening morning, and I saw another bull moose over here. He goes, well, I'm off this weekend. I'm going to bring my boat up to your camp, and we're going to go moose hunting. I'm going to go moose hunting. You're not going to go moose
you're not
hunting.
going to. I'm going to.
So he comes up. He gets this moose. So I said, okay, I'll help you clean it. And I'm holding this moose up, and he just slices his hand while he's doing it. I don't know how he slices his hand. He goes, well, I can't clean the moose. You got to do it. So I had to clean his moose for him.
You tell him I'm on the state payroll right now. I'm not allowed to do that.
No, well, actually,
you could clean the moose. You just couldn't hunt it.
I couldn't hunt it. I mean, I can't harvest it on my own for my personal use.
Yeah. So did he hook you up with some moose meat when you were heading home at the end of the season?
Yes, but kind of no. He did. So basically, he took this moose back, and I don't know what he did, but he got bones in it. So they ground up the burger, and it had bone chips in it.
Bone chips in it?
So it's like he was saying, well, you kind of got to chew softly because there's bone. I mean, I had like 1 or 2 bone chips. We had burgers or something, and there was a couple, and it's like, man, I don't know if I really want to deal with a bone chip every time. And, you know, if you don't chew it right, you never know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that was a side story about.
Was it a big moose?
No, that wasn't the biggest one. I mean, it wasn't the other one. That was a third bull moose. So there was 3 bull moose within, but it was an any bull area right there. So, and also another scenario with one of my trips was on by the Susitna was not Ted Turner. There was a lodge about 5 miles, 10 miles up from us that Ted Turner had come in to have a powwow with a bunch of his bigwigs. They wanted to come to Alaska. So we went up by boat and met Ted Turner at this thing up there. Yeah. And then, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Bev Doolittle. She's an artist.
The name. Yeah.
She's the one that does paintings, but it's got like trees up, but it'll have horses in there.
Yeah.
So there's this couple paddling down the river, and they come in and say, hey, you know, you got some coffee or something like that? And I said, sure. And I didn't know who this lady was. And I mean, and she says, yeah, I'm Bev Doolittle. And it's like, so.
Congratulations.
She goes, oh, you know, and she was not boasting or anything. So, you know, but then I looked her up later on and I go, wow. Hey, you want to hand me a picture or something like, how about an autograph or something like that?
Do a portrait?
So anyway, a couple of times you see different people out in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah, Alaska, you never know who you're going to run into.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So back to building the house.
Back to building the house.
So you designed all this while you're up on the river.
Right. I designed it, etc., like that. And then basically we built it, started in October, and it took us, I think, 6 weeks to frame it in.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, you know, the house was kind of built, and my dad was still, he came up here and helped. He did a lot of the concrete work because I was working fish and game still in the summer, and he built the back retaining wall. So because it's on a slope like this, and there wasn't enough flat ground, so the only way that I could build it was to have a retaining wall and have the basement kind of stick up like this. So he built that, and then we dug a well. And you know, how deep do you dig a well? I mean, there's people across the street from us dug a 30-foot well. Ours was 310 feet.
Ooh, holy cow.
But the good thing about it is it's artesian, so the water comes out all the way, and we actually had to put a pipe out of it because it would just flow out the top and then just ice up completely. So
okay.
So anyway, so we built the house, and I'm now 3 miles from town, etc., like that. Yeah. And to start with, I put the house.
So something just came to me. Did you start building the house before you asked Crystal to marry you?
Yes.
So so she didn't have any say in how the house was built.
No.
Boy.
Because
you're pretty lucky there. Most women want to have a say in that, Al.
I think she came in October, and I started in October. And I didn't even know.
Yeah, you haven't met her when you started. I'm just trying to get the timeline there.
So basically, she came to the open house that we had in '89. Yep. I mean, because it was in the summer we had it because my dad was still alive. My dad died in December of '89. So. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Talking about your dad and your uncle, I don't remember what you might be able to help me with this. But I remember when my dad had the sports shop in the building where the grocery store is now. Yeah. That one year, because he was at that time he had a lot of stuffed animals, wolves and stuff like that. A lot of those are over in the American Bald Eagle Foundation now. So he's kind of building up a collection for that. And I can't remember if it was your dad, your brother, your mom, your aunt. One of the Badgleys comes in and it's like brings him an armadillo because he didn't have it. So I brought an armadillo.
Yeah, that was my dad.
Was that your dad? And then was your dad the one that brought the rattlesnake too?
I think
because we got the rattlesnake too,
and we had the wood duck.
And the wood duck.
Those are the three things.
All the things is like each year it seemed like there's another thing, but we got to have more Texas here. We got to have more Texas here. And yeah, the Badgley family kept bringing us, and we still got all three of those in the store.
They're still here.
Yeah.
So basically, I moved in to our house in '88. Actually, I don't think I moved in until start of '89 because it was not insulated, etc., and stuff like that. So, and let's see, starting in December of '90s when Crystal and I got married. So, and basically, I don't know if she realized what she was getting into. So, we've had some pretty neat experiences in the fact that Crystal's parents eventually retired, and they actually came up and did some kind of work at the church as a campground host at the church. They would bring an RV up, and they would park it there, and they would mow the lawn, and Crystal's mom would do flowers around the church, but they got free utilities or something, so they got quite a few years to come up here and visit. And my mom stayed with us a few years after I built my house. My mom says, "Do you want the trailer and the property at Lutak?" Mm-hmm. And it says, "If you do, you're going to have to shovel the flat roof of the trailer and everything." And I said, "You can sell that."
Yeah, it's 7 miles from my house. I don't really need a cabin 7 miles away.
So we got a couple of fire stories.
So where was, because that trailer, is that still there?
No.
Which property was that?
It's right next to Richard Buck's.
Okay.
There's a little white shed there now that's still one of our fishing cleaning sheds or stuff like that.
Okay. I thought it was further down. I didn't know if it was where the slide came down in 2020, but you were closer to the Bucks on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you talked earlier about developing a lot of protocols and everything through the fire department and the way they do training and stuff like that. When did safety talk come in? Because you and Lyle Huff go every once a week on KHNS. You do
1996.
1996. You started safety talk.
Right.
And so what brought that about?
So Fire Prevention Week was in October, and I said, well, we're covering kids in the school, but if you don't have a kid in the school, you're
not hearing it.
You're not really going to hear it or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I started saying, well, why don't we do a program and talk about safety once a week or something like that? And to start with, this was a boring as talk or something like that. The first one I did, it's like I didn't know what I was doing. It's like, this is about fire safety. Fire safety tip number 1. It's like, oh, man. And then we've had a bunch of other people. Another person, I don't know if anybody remembers Travis Reed.
Yeah.
He was on there with me. And Travis was a card. And, I mean, he kind of livened a lot of things up. But Lyle's been on with me a long time, and a lot of different people have been on. So we've ended up there's about 50 different topics that we have, a 15-minute spiel that we do on Wednesdays from 8:45 to 9, and talking about, last Wednesday we talked about current health. What's your health situation? What you can do to make your health better or something like that. We have topical ones like, we have a snow machine safety talk right before the Alcan. We have Thanksgiving, don't cook turkeys wrong right before Thanksgiving. We have the holiday safety talk. We have, at the end of the year, we have what they call the year-end review, where we cover about 12 topics in 15 minutes. So we just do a quick summary of each one to try to just remind people, wear your seatbelt, etc., like that. So that's another thing. And one other thing that was a pretty big accomplishment is they have what's called a Firefighter 1 class, which is a class for your fire department to become trained as a certified firefighter. I ended up taking that. It was 160 hours of training for me. So eventually I got the credentials with someone else that could help as to do a Firefighter 1 class in Haines. But most people couldn't take off a week at a time, because I took a week off and then they would have a month later, they have another 1 week session. But so we ended up doing it for about 5 months or something like that. But we would do like Wednesday night, Thursday night, all day Saturday for ever. And we got like 9 or 10 people from Haines certified as Firefighter 1. So
great.
So that was a big accomplishment for
What have you seen from when you started as a volunteer in the early 80s till now? Because you're still
Sure.
you're back to a volunteer now.
Right.
You're limited to what you can do. But what have you seen in changes of is there big changes in equipment and tactics? How is that, or has it not really evolved that much over that time period?
There's a lot of things that we used to do that, I'm going to refer back to my fire on the Barracks. It's like, and you picture this, if you have a window and you got fire coming out the window, everybody thinks the best thing to do is to put water in the window. But the fire's got to go somewhere. So instead of coming out that window where it's already coming out, you just push the fire into another room. It comes out that window, you put the fire out, goes to another, you burn the whole house down. So there's a lot of tactics, and now a lot of times you'll come from the opposite side of the fire and you just can push the fire right out. Then you might only have one room that has fire damage, and everything else is, if the doors are closed, you may not even have any fire damage, maybe some smoke damage, etc., like that. And the equipment, we have a better PPE where you're going to be better prepared or something like that. I've melted 2 helmets.
Melted 2 helmets.
Yes. So the main one I can remember melting was the fact that we had...
How big of fires were those that you were...
There were trainings.
During training, you melted them.
And the one training was we had a situation where people were coming in down a hallway. You had to make a 90-degree turn and then make another 90-degree turn, and there was a fire. And I was the safety officer to make sure that if something went wrong, I could put the fire out. But the goal of the safety officer is not to, if the fire starts to get big, you put it out. So the team's supposed to figure out, what are you going to do if something goes wrong? So this team was coming in, and somehow the hose got tangled up and they couldn't get around the corner. So now the fire's getting bigger, and I'm trying to watch this team to see, what are they going to do? Are they going to back out? Are they going to stay? Or what are they going to do? And they're still trying to go forward, and the fire's getting bigger. And I'm saying, what are you going to do? I'm not going to say, what are you going to do? Because I can't say, what are you supposed to do? Because you're supposed to figure out what you're supposed to do. And finally, it started getting really big, and I have a team that's ready to put it out. And they said, do you want us to put it out? So I just put my head up behind the shield to say, and it melted my helmet. I said, yes.
Yeah. Yep, it's hot enough. Let's go ahead and put her out.
It's time to put it out. So anyway, so you just, certain things like that you can remember.
So one thing I want to touch on with you, Alan, I know you can't give us specifics or anything like that. So I kind of want to keep this broad, but looking at, do you know how many fire calls you went on, how many ambulance calls you went on over your career? Do you have a rough estimate?
I can tell you, we were looking at, when I first started in 85 as an ambulance responder, I think we had an average of about 75 ambulance calls a year. Last year we had 425. But a lot of those are Medevacs, et cetera, like that, which we never used to have as much of. So I figure I was keeping track of my calls for a while towards the end, and I was averaging about 100 to 125 ambulance calls a year. I was on the ambulance, so when I was paid for 28 years, to start with, it's not going to be that much. So if you average 28 years at 75 ambulance calls a year, I don't know what that is, but that's a lot of ambulance calls. Our fire call volume is a lot less. So, but
how, and so it's a lot of calls.
Right.
The thing that, from looking at it from a distance and occasionally being on the other end of that, where you're involved with the fire department coming to your house or ambulance coming to your house, and on that aspect of it, how hard is it for you to, or is it easy to not carry that with you? Because every time that you're going on one of those calls, you're dealing with somebody in significant distress, whether it's, and depending on the severity of the fire, sometimes it might be just a yard fire, grass fire, whatever, but a lot of times you're dealing with somebody that in a lot of distress and trauma, and you're there helping them, but you can't always fix everything.
Correct.
How do you process that?
Well, there's a couple of things that people have told me. Is one is you can't change the situation that happens before you get there.
True.
You can't. You don't have control over that till you get there. And if you are trained well enough, you got to do what's right with the equipment you have, and you got to do the best you can. And if you say, I did the best I can with what I had, and this is what the results, you can't really ask for more. And my goal is to say, I did what I can. And a lot of times it's how you treat people after the call as versus, and sometimes it's treating the bystanders as much as the patient. You have to treat the patient, but if a kid is hurt and you tell the parent, back off, let me do my stuff, then basically you are not going to fare well with that patient or the parent. But it's like, if you can include them in saying, hey, it's really important for you to be here. Can you tell me this about your child or something like that? And try to figure it out. And I think I kind of got used to talking with people in different levels. I think the most challenging ones are the situations where if I had maybe certain equipment and I don't have it now, I can do it. Like if I go on a call without the ambulance, there's a lot of things I can't do without my ambulance. But it's like, I've been on planes before where they call for medical people, and I've gone in there, but there's some challenges there. So I try to present myself as the fact that I want to train myself as best I can, do the best job I can, and have my team work together, do the best job they can. And you can't ask for anything more. I mean, that's what we're here for. And there's some calls that are, I still recall certain calls that are challenging from a long time ago. And, a lot of it is when you were less trained and, if you wish you could do something, but I do pretty well with it. I have a lot of people that are on our crew that don't do well. And I'm trying to figure out how to tell that someone's not doing well, even though they say they might be doing well. And it's a situation where if you see a lot of calls, but I see so few calls compared to, if I worked in Seattle, they see more in a year than I've seen in my whole career. But they have backup, etc. It's kind of like, if we have a big fire here, we don't have backup. I mean, we have Klahini, maybe they can come help us. But if we have a mass casualty, we have 2 ambulances in our community. The next closest ambulance is Haines Junction, which is 150 miles away to a different country. So, I mean, we have to, train the best we can. We've got some really good trainers now in our community, which are really important. I mean, we got Julie Anderson and Jen Walsh do a lot of training, Tim Holm, and we have a new paid chief now that's really into training. So getting people trained and getting people up to snuff is really beneficial for your community. But you can only do what you can do with the equipment you have.
Mm-hmm. No, it's always impressed me that in a small town, and the majority of the people that are responding are volunteers.
Yeah.
The professionalism, speaking from personal experience, for family members and stuff, that when called the ambulance and the way everybody's treated the whole way, I don't know, it's pretty high. They might do it better somewhere else, but I hope I don't find that out. But because I think the Haines departments, EMT and fire, do an amazing job with the resources that they have.
Right. And
I think a lot of that goes to your leadership when you took that over and set up those programs.
Right. So, I mean, I've done some of it. There's a lot of people that have helped me out throughout the whole time, and there's just people that have been instrumental in making changes, et cetera, like that. But just trying to be sensible in your approach a lot of times. Don't get excited, because some people just can't. They're just too gung-ho. And I mean, everybody wants to do something, but, scene safety is our first priority. I mean, if you run in there and the firefighter gets hurt or the ambulance person gets hurt, you can have serious consequences. We don't need to become a second victim. And that's a key thing that we want to work on. So,
and too, like you were talking about some of the names you had mentioned before with the John Bruce, your Rock Aarons, your Al Heinrich, your Scott Bradford, and a lot of these people they got their full-time job.
Right.
Yet they're also going to training for ambulance. They're going to training for fire department. They've got weekly meetings, doing fundraising and everything. And so I that also is something that I don't think gets enough recognition, that the volunteers, now we've got more paid firemen. It used to just be you and everybody else is volunteers, but the number of volunteers that are putting time, Vince Hansen, he's always responding, Patty Brown, CJ, the people over the years that have just spent hours and hours in the training. I don't think the community does enough to thank all the people that do that.
I mean, it's really nice when you work with somebody and, if they just say, hey, thanks for coming out, we'll get people, send us a thank you note or something like that. That means a lot to the responders that, hey, we are noticed, we are appreciated. And I mean, we appreciate the opportunity. And working with people that it can be good and bad. If it's somebody you know a little bit about the background with maybe the family or something, like, oh, wow, this person's grandmother's been sick like this in the past, and I know little Johnny gets really scared or something when we have to come in like that. And, we got to say, okay, hey, we're just gonna go check on Grandma, and we're gonna just see how she's doing right now and try to explain and take a little bit of time to make that happen. So it's kind of a way of dealing with lowering the stress level of a situation.
Yeah. So 28 years as the paid fireman in the Haynesboro.
Yeah.
You decided you were going to retire.
When I turned 60, I said, I'm going to pull the plug and still be a volunteer, but then I'm going to keep.
So then you came and started working for me part-time.
Yeah, I worked for you part-time, and then I worked as a deckhand
for Matt Davis.
Yeah, Matt Davis for a while.
Yeah.
And then I got 2 ambulance calls I want to mention before we get into that part.
Let's
here.
hit them.
This is my animal ambulance calls. One of them I call bat busters.
Bat busters.
So we get a call from someone that says, I got bit by a bat, and I want you to catch the bat so we can find out if it's
got rabies
or anything. And it's like, so how do you catch a bat? So we got.
How do you know it's the right bat?
That's true. That's true. So we're going in there with dip nets. We got all this gear on or something, and it's like, you turn the lights on, what happens to the bat?
Yeah.
He's gone.
He's gone.
We never found the bat, but now we're opening up every cabinet in this house trying to see if we can find the bat. So anyway, and another one was at the ferry terminal. There was a couple that had a really high prized dog, and they were throwing a ball for their dog, and they threw it towards the end of the dock. The dog didn't see the ball, and splash in the water. So they called the fire department to try to get the dog out. But we got a little bit of a problem because the ferry is getting ready to leave, and they don't want to leave their dog. First off, they don't want to leave the dog in the water, and secondly,
so were they on the ferry?
No, they were getting ready to get on the ferry, and they were exercising their dog, and then the dog jumped into the water. Yeah. So I have, since I live right out there, I have a little John boat, a little 10-foot John boat, and it's not calm out there, but I didn't have time to get a big boat. Mm-hmm. So I paddle out with my John boat, and they're up on the top of the dock, and I'm paddling towards this dog, and the dog's paddling away from me as fast as he can.
I don't want what this guy's offering.
So then it's kind of like we're chasing this dog all around, and then they're yelling, "Go with the boat!" This isn't gonna. That dog doesn't understand what's going on. So finally, we just grab the dog by the collar and reef it in. Then it tries to jump back out, but we were able to eventually get it back. So they were happy about that. But
so speaking of ambulance in the ferry, I don't think you were there.
Nope.
But wasn't it in the 70s that we had an ambulance for the Barracks?
It wasn't an ambulance. It was our. It's kind of like it was a station wagon that they used for a gear rig. It wasn't the ambulance.
Okay, it wasn't the ambulance. Put it on the ferry. Somebody didn't set the parking brake or something, and it went off the other side.
It is in the middle of.
Is it still
Lutak,
in the middle of
Lutak Inlet somewhere?
Yeah.
So that got launched.
Anybody that wanted to know about that story, that was true and correct. But it wasn't an ambulance. It
wasn't an ambulance.
Different fire department
They went
vehicle.
to Skagway for a training there, and they had a bunch of equipment. And for the turnaround is they feel that the ferry opened the gate too fast when they made the turn, so they should have had the thing closed.
The door there still.
But it wasn't. And so they ended up replacing some of the equipment that we lost, which was obsolete, with brand new stuff. So
we need to throw more stuff off the ferry. we won't tell the state that. We'll just figure out how we roll more stuff off of there.
Yeah.
So then in your retirement, you had more time to do fishing, to do hunting. So your summers, when you're not here, you're either volunteering over at the fire department still, you're over there quite a bit, or you're subsistence fishing.
Correct. We do, actually, I have some friends of ours that had a nice fishing boat that they ended up moving out, and I ended up buying their fishing boat, which was good in the fact that I had been fishing with their boat because they didn't have all the gear. If you want to subsistence fish, you got to have a net, you've got to have pots, you've got to have long lines, and all of these different things. And they had a boat, but they didn't have any of that stuff. But the good thing about when it was their boat is they paid for the fuel. They paid for the maintenance on it. All I had to do was bring my gear and put the stuff out. Yeah. So, but that is, currently we have 5 freezers in our house.
Okay. 2
of the freezers are just for bait.
Yeah.
For baiting the shrimp pots, crab pots, and all of that kind of stuff, and halibut long lines. And then I have one that's specifically for fish and all of that. And then I have one that's for the basic normal stuff. So and then we have just a little freezer for other stuff. So
with your garden and that, you and Crystal you try and get as much of that from the land as possible, right?
Our garden's been kind of slim. We get pretty much, our carrots used to be really good until the bear decided he likes carrots too. And for 2 years straight, Before we would go to pull our carrots, there wasn't a carrot left and our patch wasn't very big to start with. So we have potatoes and carrots for
On behalf of the bears, thank you for providing good carrots.
So, I mean, we got to feed them too. So that's important.
Yeah. So now let's move ahead a few years. And you were, well, maybe it was about the time you retired. You started going hunting up north with the Jones family.
Correct.
With Craig and Stan. You go, what river do you guys go on?
We go on the Tanana.
On the Tanana. Now, was that an area that you worked on for fisheries?
No, I've not been on that area before. So
you guys go up there, and how many years ago was it now that you fell out of a tree?
It was in 2022.
2022, so 4 years ago.
Yeah.
This fall now.
So
give us a story on that.
Okay, so we have areas that we hunt in this remote area. We set up a tent camp, and the one area that we hunt, there's a big long swamp, and it's notorious that you don't climb cottonwood trees. But this cottonwood tree had been spiked. We had nails all in it, except for those 2 branches and then a big branch you sat on. So I was up about 25 feet, and I was on the first branch, holding on to the top branch that I'm sitting on, and I pushed off that, and I was putting my foot on the second branch when the first branch broke. So I fell about 25 feet and landed on my rear end. But the precursor of this is basically we have people get dropped off at like 7 in the morning. They get picked up at 10. So I was climbing up. So this is 7 in the morning. And it's like I fell, and it's like first thing being a medical person, the first thing you do is I can breathe, which started, it kind of knocked the breath out of me. And that first breath was a tough one. I mean, it was like, then I could breathe. I said, okay, that's good. Breathing is important to start with.
That's a good starting point.
And then it's like, I can move my fingers. I can move my toes. But my back really hurts. But it's like, oh, well, what am I going to do? So I'm trying to say, well, I'm just kind of sitting there for a little bit, and then I'm saying, well, I'm sitting out with my legs out, and it's like, okay, well, can I even try to stand up? And I'm saying, or should I try to stand up? And I said, so I couldn't stand up, so I said, I just bruised my back because my feet were fine. Everything was fine. So it's like, okay, it's now 7:05. They're coming at 10 o'clock. It's like, this is going to be a long 3 hours. So then it's like, after about 7:15, I said, man, I need to try to figure out a way to get help. So I said, well, how do you signal for help? I mean, we didn't really arrange for anything. We don't have radios. It's illegal to use radios to communicate. So I said, well, I'll try to do 3-shot method. But I'm saying I couldn't put the gun on my shoulder because if I shot, it would be not good on my back. So I put it on the ground. And it's like, okay. So I just shot straight up because I thought it would be easier to shoot straight up than putting it at an angle towards that. So I shot, and then it's click, 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 boom, click, 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 boom. And the people that were hunting with me were about 2 to 3 miles away. They thought a shot, but then they said, oh, well, they didn't hear 3.
They just heard all 3. Okay.
So then it's like, well, maybe he's got a moose or something like that. So 15 minutes later, when nobody came or heard anything, or actually it was like 30 minutes later, because I said it's going to take them a while if they're out in the field to come back in. So now it's 8 o'clock and they still haven't come. So let's try it again and angle it a little bit more. 3 shots. But I only had, I think, 9 shells with me or something like that. I'm saying, so it's like, okay, now I've only got 3 shells left. And if a bear comes up, I want to have something left to protect me. So I'm sitting there and wait. 10 o'clock, they show up, and it's like, and what has happened in the past is sometimes you will walk back towards them. You know, if you're just tired of sitting in the stand, you just walk back that way. So they drive up to my spot, and I'm not there at the river edge. So it's like they start to leave, and then they go, well, he would have probably, and actually I had my float coat there, so I think they saw my float coat, and I said, well, he wouldn't leave his float coat. So they walk up, and I'm telling them, hey, I'm hurt. So anyway, so now they say, well, can you walk? I said, no, I can't walk. So eventually Craig was able to kind of like carry me piggyback and get me to the boat. And I was laying sideways in the boat, and then we went back to camp. And then it's like, okay, well, I need ibuprofen. And I usually don't take a full dose, but I needed a full dose. But they say, well, you think you broke your back? And I said, well, I don't think so, because I mean, I can move everything, but it just hurts. And it's like, well, I figure if you fall 25 feet, it's probably going to hurt.
Yeah.
So eventually I took ibuprofen, and I said, like, you're supposed to wait 2 hours. 15 minutes later, and it says, is my next dose ready yet? And it's like, no, we need to make a call. We're 40 miles from any town or something like that on the river.
So it's going to be a bumpy jet boat ride to get you
So
back.
then it's like, okay, well, that's probably not super ideal. And then if you go that way, you're going to have to go another 75 miles by truck or by ambulance to get you back home. You're going to be bouncing. So they call the trooper, and Craig has to get up in a tree to make the call. So he calls the trooper, and the trooper says, well, we'll try to send Coast Guard out. But then they said Coast Guard's unavailable, so we're going to send a military helicopter out. So, but they say, you know, you can't land in the woods, so we had to find a sandbar that they could land at. So basically they made arrangements that I'll be taken to this sandbar, and then the helicopter would come and land. So basically, so the helicopter comes in, I'm still in the boat, and this medic comes in with this hard backboard and a sea collar and says, I'm going to strap the sea collar on you. I'm going to lay you on your back on this backboard, and I'm going to strap you down. And I said, no, you're not. And he goes, that's how we got to secure you. And I'm saying, I can move my head. See, I'm moving my head. I can move my head. You're not going to put a sea collar on me. Yeah. And I said, the only way I can be moved is on my side. Yeah. Because if you lay me on my back, it's not going to work. So you end up, so basically they laid me on.
Did you explain to him that you have EMT training at this point?
I'm a medic. Yeah. And he goes, well, I'm a medic too. So basically I said, what I could really use is some kind of pain management for my back. And he goes, well, we don't have any morphine or anything like that. We have what's called ketamine. And I've heard of ketamine, and I've never had ketamine until that day. I never want to get ketamine again. So, but basically, he gave me this ketamine, and I didn't know what the effects were going to be. So I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden, it looks like things from the helicopter are coming at me. And it's like, I sure hope that's a ketamine, because this doesn't feel right. And then it kind of knocked me out, because they flew me from that area to Fairbanks. And then I went in to Fairbanks and got checked out there, and they did a CAT scan and x-rays and found out that I had shattered my lumbar vertebra, and then I had to go to Anchorage. So Craig ends up calling Crystal to let them know that I'm hurt and they don't know what's going on, and told them that I was being Medevac to Fairbanks. So she's saying, okay, well, what should I do? And he goes, well, I don't know where he's going to go from Fairbanks, if he's going to stay in Fairbanks or he's going to go.
Yeah.
So basically, so she ends up calling our son, who happened to be in the Seattle airport going on another trip. And he says, well, I'm going to cancel my trip and I'm going to go up north. And he goes to Fairbanks. But then he goes, but Craig got the number of the doctor in Fairbanks to find out what's going to happen. So my son was able to call that doctor, and they said he's being medevac to Anchorage. So basically so it would have been terrible for him to fly to Fairbanks to find out that I'm already in. So they flew to Anchorage, and I ended up getting there sometime that evening, and then the next morning I ended up having a 9.5-hour surgery.
9.5 hours.
9.5 hours. I had to have 2 10-inch rods and an artificial vertebra at L1. So from T10 to L5, I have rods with screws into the wings of the vertebra to secure that. So that kind of limited my ability to respond to fire calls. But I had spent a week in the hospital, a week in rehab, and then walked off the ambulance 2 weeks later, kind of slowly, but.
I remember I was when the ferry dock that you were on, you and Crystal coming back, we had a refrigeration guy coming to work on our refrigeration equipment next door. So I was out there to pick him up, and he came off the ferry, and he's like, all right, I'm ready. I'm like, hang on a second. I got somebody I got to meet out here. I said, Al's coming off the ferry. I got to wait. And Crystal walks up, and I'm like, okay, they're taking him off in a van or they got a car or something like that. And then pretty soon, you're doing pretty well. You might say this, but for a guy that was just a couple weeks off of back surgery, you had your cane or whatever, you're cruising up that ferry ramp. I was like, it was apprehensive. You know, my dad having a back injury, being in a wheelchair for 38 years, didn't know what was going to happen. But to see you come off the ferry like that, I was like, I'm not sure where this is going to go, but I think Al's going to be all right on this.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And the challenge was, before they did the surgery, is like, you got 2 options. You can take the surgery, or you can lay in bed for 6 months on your back and try to let it heal on its own. And I mean, it would be less surgery because they'd only have to actually do the surgery for the ruptured vertebra. But it said, or you can get all these rods in, and then you can be up and at them in a day or 2. And it's like laying on my back 6 months. I think that would be.
Oh, yeah. I think you made the right choice.
Yes. Yeah. So.
But I also remember when you first got back, for a while, for a few months, you were really nervous about whether you were still going to be able to go fishing, whether you're still going to be able to go hunting, shoot a rifle. How did that wear on you over that time, or just the not knowing? And when did you feel like, all right, what was the sign for you that I'm going to be able to do this again?
Well, basically in my rehab, it's like, before you get a rehab, you need to be able to climb stairs. And I'm saying, well, if I can, because basically we have a 3-story house and my bedroom's on the 3rd floor. If I can't climb stairs, it's going to be a challenge. So basically I started like day 1, I did a shuffle to the bathroom almost. And then day 2, I would be able to walk a little bit more. But then like day 4, I was doing laps around the corridor there. But then it's like stairs. I had to climb 10 flights of stairs before they let me out.
Let you out?
So once I figured I could climb stairs, plus I had to be able to get in and out of a car.
Yeah.
So they just see if I could do that. Because, I mean, walking is different than able to bend and to try to get, and it's still hard for me because I'm so used to being able to bend like this. I hit my head all the time on the side of a car because I'm used to being able to duck down, and I don't bend like that. So half of my back does not bend like it used to.
So but when you got back, because you were worried about lifting and things like that, being able to fire a rifle at a moose, whether you're going to be able to pack a moose. Well, what was kind of the key for you?
The only thing that I could see that was good about it is the time of year. because I don't hunt in November, December, January,
you had
February, March, April.
Yeah, you had till the next hunting season.
So I had that, and fishing is a lot more dominating in my. So it's like, okay, I've got to be able to figure out what I can do, and I figured if I can climb that, and they said you got a 50-pound weight limit, and I'm saying to start with. So I'm saying 50 pounds. That's most situations. I mean, some of the crab pots might be a little bit more than that, but then but the thing is, it's got to be positioning. You know, I used to be able to reach over and grab a box and do that. Wasn't going to happen for a while there or something like that. And then I had a lot of exercise I had to do, so that was a thing. It's like, it's a whole lot easier to do exercises when you're motivated because you want to go fishing or something like that. So
good to have a reward at the end of it.
That was pretty neat. So, and you know, the town was phenomenal. Everybody was bringing food. People would come over and haul firewood in for us, and there was just a lot of people that really helped us out during that time. So, you know, I can't thank people enough for stepping up and making getting back to Haines memorable.
Well, for the number of people you've done the same to over the years, I think there's probably still a lot that's due to you if anything ever happened again. I mean, it's a two-way street out. You're always one of you and Crystal both are usually at the top of the list if anything bad's happening to help people out. I mean,
it's kind of like, I like the phrase neighbor helping neighbor. That's kind of the ambulance thing, and that's what Haines does here. I mean, it's really nice if Crystal gets stuck in the side of the road. I'm not really worried. If we have a tow strap for her, somebody's going to pull you out. People help out, and people will do things for you. And it's like, I still remember we had a neighbor moved in across the street from us once, and they were unpacking their van, and you know, I said, hey, you need some help? He goes, well, how much per hour are you going to want? And I said, I don't want anything. I just want to help you unload. Well, what do you want? I'm saying, I'm just your neighbor. That's what we do here. We just help people. And it's like, he just never got it. So and I mean, that's what, you know, small communities life's like. There's a lot of disagreement here in Haines, but when somebody's in need, people come together and help out.
Yeah. Do you miss Texas?
Well, actually, I have two good friends that live down there, and I go down probably every other year or once a year or something. The guy that I hunted with a lot down there, he's got a nice ranch down there that I can go down and here's a story from his ranch, which was kind of bizarre. I went on a dove hunt at his ranch. I shot a dove, and it fell into a pond. And it's like, oh, man, how am I going to get this dove out? And there was a little bit of wind, so I said, well, the dove's going to get blown to the side. I'll get it there. And then, you know, I was watching doves, and I look out there, and it's gone. It's not there anymore. I'm saying, well, I guess it maybe blew over to the side. Ended up shooting a couple more doves, and another one fell in the thing, and I said, what's going on? And then, it's big catfish in there.
Oh, is it catfish eating the doves?
Catfish eating the whole dove, floating on the water.
So how big a catfish was that? Did you go in and try and put your catfishing skills to work?
Well, we did fish for there. The biggest one we caught was like 5 pounds out of there. But, I mean, there's might be bigger ones. I don't know how big they are in there. It's a stock pond.
Pond.
You never
Feeding
know.
the catfish.
Yeah, me and catfish, they go along pretty well. So anyway,
so what? Any unfulfilled things trips you want to do, hunting places you want to go?
A lot of what I potentially want to do is going to be limited now. I can't really. I mean, I've got 5 goats, 10 moose, or something like that. A goat hunt for me is kind of out. I just can't climb or something like that. And moose hunting is a little challenging unless I have people to help me. I can't pack a moose. I mean, and things like I used to do. So I'm kind of limiting myself. But fishing is kind of my go-to right now. I really enjoy the halibut, salmon, shrimp, and crab, and taking people out and enjoying that. It's really fun. We saw some national parks with Crystal and I went to a bunch of parks, and we've got one granddaughter. We have a daughter that's getting married this summer, so we have some adventures here. Crystal's parents currently right now, her dad is not doing well health-wise. She is in Pennsylvania, so we'll probably have to go back there sometime soon again. But anyway, we'll, see a little bit more of America. We've made a couple of nice trips. We went on a river cruise in Europe. We went to Italy recently. We went to Israel. So in the last 5 or 6 years, we've had some pretty neat trips. So, and I think we're going to try to do more of that. So hopefully, I think my wife's got a list of a few things where she wants to go, and we'll see where life takes us.
Yeah. Well, I think with all the work you've done and the good things you've done in our community, I think you've earned some trips, Al.
Well, we'll keep plugging. I'm still planning on going for a little bit longer.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying this is the end of the story. There's still chapters to be written, but I hope they're more fun chapters than work chapters.
Yeah.
And we might have to have a touch up here in a few years and catch up on everything you've done in between.
Sounds good. Anyway, I appreciate the opportunity. And
thanks for joining us and sharing your story. And in my mind, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, the 70s.
Yeah.
But it was. But just families like yours that came here just as a vacation, you see that quite a bit with different people. They come here for one thing, and then all of a sudden one family member or several family members, they move here. Sometimes it's just for a couple years. Sometimes it's for 50 years, 60 years or whatever. You never know, but kind of that's why I've been having fun with this, is just learning of everybody's background stories and what brought them to Haines and why they decided to stay here. And we need.
Right. The one thing that's still amazing to me, there's kids that are 4 and 5 years old that come into the shop and look at the animals. There's no parent anywhere. Maybe they're at the grocery store, or they maybe just walked over from school. I don't know where they came from, but they're here having a good time. And it's like, there's not a whole lot of places in the U.S. where you're going to have, kids under 16 by themselves anywhere. And sometimes kids under 16 get themselves into more trouble. Anyway, so.
No, that is interesting that the little kids, and we'll be looking around, it's like, there's somebody else coming with them. And when they're here by themselves, they're always really well behaved, and they're just browsing through, taking a look at the animals, taking a look at different stuff, and then sooner or later, either mom or dad will show up, or they'll go get them and come back. And then the best part is when they're like, I want that.
Yep.
I need that lure. That's the one that's catching the dollies or whatever. So, no, it's pretty cool to have that engagement with
right.
With
and
the
I mean,
kids.
just working here, this is actually, when I retired, it's like, I would like to have a position where I can be involved in hunting and fishing. I mean, there's not a guide service to speak of here, and it wouldn't be year-round anyway if you had a guide service. And, I mean, this is kind of a dream come true to have this kind of position where I can talk fishing and be involved with the community and help a few people catch fish now and then. And
it was kind of crazy how that came about, because Mike and Zita were working for us, and he knew because I was by myself over here. And he said, "So, are you looking for somebody part-time over at the sport shop?" I was like, "Yeah." He says, "I think I know somebody." I was like, "Who's that?" He goes, "Al Badgley." I said, "Al's working. He's got like a full-time job. I don't think Al's going to be working." He goes, No, he's retiring. He told me he's looking for it. I said, "He's going to be fishing. He's not going to have time to come in." He goes, "No, Doug, I think he's looking for a job." I was like, "Well, tell him to come." And I think he saw you at a dinner party or something shortly thereafter, and then you came in, and I'm like, "Hey, Al, whenever." And I think that was the deal. You said, "Well, I'm not sure when I want to start." And I'm like, "You do whatever. I'll take you whenever you want to show up."
Yeah, well, that's been a great opportunity for me. I appreciate that opportunity. And
been awesome to have you here.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Because I know if I hurt myself while you're here, I'm covered.
Yeah.
Anybody else gets hurt here. But the one thing on that, though, is this probably, I remember a few years ago, it was in the winter, I was hauling some shelves out of my house, and I slipped on the stairs outside and fell down. And when I thought that I'd really screwed something up because I couldn't see. Everything was just really blurry, and then I realized my glasses fell off. and then it took me a couple minutes to find my glasses in the snow, but then I was like, okay, I can at least see. So I come down and go to the clinic and everything, and come back and you're like, I was over here, why did you stop? And that probably shows you that I did hit my head pretty hard, that I didn't even think to stop to see the medic that I had working at the store and ask him what was going on.
Yeah, well, there's been a couple of situations. I think people slipped on the ice and stuff around here, so always nice to have somebody around. Actually, we had one trailer catch on fire across the way. We used a fire extinguisher for here once on it, so you never know when a situation's going to come about. So,
and the other thing going forward here too is we're gonna kind of take off on the safety talk. I haven't talked to Al about this yet, so this is a surprise to him. Yeah. But we've done, some of you guys know that we've done the shorter videos at the store, but I want to do more long form stuff too that's a little bit more in depth, and I want to get Al to help with that and do more on your marine safety, what we need for your boats and first aid and your hiking and things like that, and just have a people that are here in this area for the first time, what it takes to be prepared to encounter what they might be coming up with. Sure. And so we're going to rely on Al and get those taken care of sometime this spring and get those recorded online for people to share as well. So thanks again, Al. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, you enjoyed it.
Thanks for watching this episode of Doug Has Questions. Just a reminder, if you've enjoyed the conversation today, please like, subscribe, and we're available on YouTube if you want to watch us. If you just want to listen, it's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you have new episodes being launched every Thursday. So thanks again for watching or listening and following us. We appreciate your support.